From Studio 1Z, with the latest news, commentary, and weather, it's the KZRG Morning News Watch on Newstalk, KZRG.
It's FM 102.9, 105.9, AM 1310, and on your smart speaker, it's Newstalk KZRG. Ted Bojorquez
and Steve Scott,
and joining us live in the studio is Missouri Gubernatorial candidate Jay Ashcroft. Jay, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. Great to be down here. Got to overnight at the family farm.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, I know you've been traveling a lot around the state, so I appreciate you stopping in. Now, Jay Ashcroft, I'm going to start off with you heavy here, if you don't mind. Missouri Governor Mike Parson, he's been pretty big on international trade missions in an attempt to bring overseas business to Missouri as opposed to the other way around. Now, do you think this is an effective way to bolster Missouri's economy? Or if elected governor of Missouri, do you envision another way to do that?
Well, I think it really depends on. I'm an engineer. I look at the numbers. Do the numbers add up? How much does it cost to do that? How much economic investment does it bring to the state? How many jobs does it bring to the state? But I think the most important thing we can do are make changes here in this state so we won't have to convince companies to come here. They'll hear about what we're doing. They'll hear about us getting rid of our state income tax. They'll hear about us really putting public safety at the forefront so that people aren't scared, so that people know they can live in freedom and not be worried about criminals, that they'll know that we have a good education system, so not only will their kids be educated and have great opportunities to be successful, but they can find workers for businesses they start. We really have to make those changes, and then we can really see government get out of the way and businesses come to Missouri.
Yeah, sort of the idea of instead of chasing the dollar, have the dollar just come here.
There's probably always a little bit of both, but until you fix those structural problems here in Missouri, it's just they're not going to come here. When the first thing a company does is Google and reads about the travesty of the crime and the public safety problems in St. Louis, they're not going to come here. We got to fix that. And we have to fix it not just for the economic activity, but for the people of this state. They deserve that.
It's Missouri Gubernatorial candidate Jay Ashcroft here on Newstalk KZRG. Speaking of economics and spending, you know, the state of Missouri and a lot of states around the country, we're still enjoying remnants of federal COVID spending. We had stories just this morning about the city of Joplin still utilizing ARPA funds for various projects, but that's going to be going away in the next handful of years here. That federal money is going to be drying up. Now, I feel like we've gotten used to enjoying that money. And if elected governor of Missouri, Jay Ashcroft, how would you help the state transition from being kind of dependent on that money for these large projects?
Well, we are dependent on it. We've become addicted to federal largesse, and it's money that the federal government doesn't have. We are digging a deeper hole. I think the latest projections show that in the next 10 years, the United States will be $58 trillion. Almost said billion, but no, trillion in debt. I can't even conceive of how big of a number that is. We have got to cut spending. We've got to cut the size and scope of government. We cannot have over 50% of our budget be determined by federal spending, because that money is going to go away. Our federal government is either going to default on the debt in the future, or we're going to have even more rampant inflation that we have right now. As a state, we've got to get our own house in order. We've got to cut spending. We've got to focus solely on education, roads, bridges, inland waterways, and public safety, so that when that shock does happen, we're ready for it.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up education, Jay Ashcroft, running for Missouri governor here at Newstalk KZRG. I know education, it's of major importance, frankly. And our neighboring state of Arkansas, I mean, we're seeing the governor there do some pretty phenomenal things in education reform. If elected governor of Missouri, would education be a priority for you? And if so, what changes would you like to enact?
You know, education is a priority for me. It's my number one priority. Followed right behind that is public safety. And then, of course, cutting the size and scope of government, getting rid of our state income tax, getting rid of the gas tax that is just so terrible for the people of the state that are struggling to make ends meet. But I want to put parents in charge. I believe that the best form of government is mom and dad. I got to say that I haven't always believed that. When I was a teenager, I wasn't always so sure about that. But mom and dad know best. Mom and dad know the values that their children need to be taught. They know the weaknesses and strengths that their children have. They know what needs to be done. Right now in Missouri, fewer than 25% of Missouri 8th graders are proficient in math and reading. That's got to change. That's morally repugnant. We need mom and dad in charge of the money so they can decide how their children are educated. And as a consequence, that will also embolden and empower teachers, the very people that have spent their lives dedicated to learning how to educate, how to teach individuals to think. We need to lift them up also.
And Jay Ashcroft, running for Missouri governor here on Newstalk KZRG, in terms of getting money in the hands of mom and dad directly, what would you recommend? Are you looking at grants? How would that work?
I think we ought to just take the money that the state would otherwise be sending to that local school for that child to go there and put that into really like a health savings account, an education savings account for that parent. If you go to a good public school, like a lot of people do, they can just go ahead and that money continues to go to that public school for that child. If you want to use it for private school tuition, if you want to use it for homeschooling costs, if you want to use it for private tutorings, one of the great things about it is just about everything else in our society, we try to take what we're selling and make sure we're doing it and conforming it to exactly what our customer needs. I have 4 children. School A may be great for my first child and my second child and my third child, but it just isn't quite the best thing for my second child. As a parent, we should give parents the opportunity to make sure it's not always about a good school or a bad school, but a good fit for a child. We need to give parents that availability to make sure they're doing best for their child.
It's Jay Ashcroft here at Newstalk KZRG, running for Missouri governor. Jay, we had a question from one of our listeners on our KZRG video live stream, sponsored by Fast Monkey Auto and Liberty Tree Guns. Chris asked, what is your position on using incentives to keep the Chiefs and Royals from moving to Kansas?
Well, if you're talking about having real public safety, putting parents in charge of education, getting rid of the last gas tax set of increases, and getting rid of our state income tax for everyone, then I'm fine with that. But if you're talking about me reaching into your pocket and giving that money to a billionaire sports owner, no, I'm against that. I think we need to have a level playing field in this state where the government is working for everybody at the same time. Individuals, sports team owners, businesses. If it's right for them, it's right for you. So I'm against giving your taxpayer money to them, but I'm all in favor of doing those things for economic freedom and just liberty in general that will make normal everyday citizens like you and me, that'll make sports teams owner and other businesses want to be in Missouri.
No. And the idea, if these teams do move to Kansas and they take some of that tax spending money to the Kansas side of the city, what then?
Well, I think it's unfortunate if they do that, but you just cannot continue to pay taxpayer money to just transfer that to the wealthy because they say, oh, I'll move my team. We've tried that before. We tried that in St. Louis to try to keep the St. Louis Cardinal football team. They're now the Arizona football team. We did that with the St. Louis basketball team that left. We did that with the St. Louis Rams that are now the LA Rams. I refuse to hold your wallet hostage for the benefit of some billionaire sports team owner. I'd love to have teams in Missouri. We're going to build Missouri to be a state where they want to be, but it's not going to be because I'm transferring your money to them.
It's Missouri Gubernatorial candidate Jay Ashcroft here on Newstalk KZRG. Now, Jay, you're live in the studio with us in Joplin. What are you doing in Southwest Missouri?
Just getting around and meeting with the people. I go to every county in the state every year. This is my 9th year of doing that. I actually finished every county in the state last week. But more specifically, I'm having a lunch, inviting people to come and kick my tires and answer whatever questions they want me to answer at the Union Station Deli from noon to 1.
Nice. Sounds pretty cool. I mean, how many miles have you driven in your lifetime, public life?
Oh, I have no idea, but we tend to average around 11,000 miles a month.
That is crazy. Lots of Red Bull and beef jerky, I imagine.
It's always about food.
That's right. It's Jay Ashcroft running for Missouri governor. Jay, if people want to learn more about your platform, what's going on, events that you're hosting, where do they go?
Ashcroft from Missouri.com. We have our red print there where we've actually laid out policy. I think we're the only gubernatorial campaign that's done that. At Jay Ashcroft Mo on X or Ashcroft for Missouri on Facebook.
It's Jay Ashcroft running for Missouri governor here on Newstalk KZRG. Jay, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's Newstalk KZRG.